Let's look at some cards. This is really what drives the game right here. And there are three different basic types of cards. You have the green cards, you have the blue cards, and you have the red cards, indicated by the banners going across them. This is mostly red. They call it a red card, but it's mostly red, blue, green. So let's take a look at the green cards first. These are the most common, and there are several things to look at on this card. So this is the Adapted Lichen card. Ooh. So I'm liking what I see. Wah, wah, wah. Okay,
That was sad.
enough of that. So first of all, this card, for me to activate this card, first of all, I have to have it in my hand. But second of all, to activate it, I have to get it out of my hand and get it on the table active. I have to pay 9 mega credits to activate this card, or to put it into play. So that's how much the card costs. This is a greenery tag or a plant tag. That doesn't mean that I can buy this with plants, but it just means that this is a plant tag that can be used, because later on maybe a card says you can't use this card unless you have 4 plant tags. So I've got one if I put this into play,
Yeah.
and I might have several others later. So these are the tags. Cards can have multiple tags on them. This one just has one. And I think some of them don't have any tags. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but we'll look through and find out. Then each of the cards have some kind of an effect. This particular card says that when I play this card, it says I will increase my plant production 1 step. I don't just get a plant, I raise my plant production. Now the icons also show me that. It shows me the same thing that the text told me, except it's indicated here by the plant icon, and then it's surrounded by a brown box. The fact that it's surrounded by a brown box means that I raise production, not actually get a plant. If there was no brown box around that plant, that would mean I just get a plant.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a pretty basic card. They do get a little more complicated. Let's take a look at this one. Cupola City. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing all these. A few things going on here. First of all, let's look at the tag. Well, first of all, let's look at the cost. This is more expensive, $16. However, look at the tags here. We've got the brown tag, and we've also got the city tag, the gray tag. The brown tag is a building tag. What this means is that any card that has this brown building tag, I can pay for this card. I can pay the 16 with cash, with money, mega credits, or I can also pay with steel. And my steel, as we see on here, every cube that I have in my steel box is not just worth 1, it's worth 2. So if I've got 3 cubes of steel here, I can buy any card that has a steel tag on it for $2 per cube. So in other words, these 3 cubes right here are worth $6 if I wanted to use that towards a card that has the steel tag. That would be $6. I could use those 3 cubes for my steel, $6. I've got $10 left. I could use that from my cash or my mega credits and pay for this card using steel and mega credits combined. Or all steel if I had enough. Or if I don't have any steel, all mega credits. Either way you want to do it. So any card that has a steel icon, oh, I forgot what this was.
Tag.
The tag, but it's a building.
Okay.
That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much. The building tag up here can be paid for using steel, because you build things with steel, right? All right. Now also you may have noticed that on this card there's a little red banner here, and it's got a little some numbers in there. It's got a little icon. That's the oxygen icon. It also says max of 9%. Well, anything that's next to the yellow money or the yellow mega credit box is a condition that must be in place before this card can be played. Now, if you get confused about the icons, all you have to do is read the text and it spells it out. So this one says here, oxygen must be 9% or less before you can play this card. Now I can look at the icons. Once I get used to it, I know that the oxygen can't be any more than 9% for me to play this card. But until I'm familiar with those, I just read the text. Oxygen must be 9% or less. So I can't play this card if oxygen's more than 9%. Now that's going to be later in the game. So what that's doing is that's kind of forcing me to use this card earlier in the game. Other cards might say, and I don't have one handy, but they might say, for instance, that oxygen has to be greater than 3% or something like that. And that would just say minimum instead of maximum.
Yeah.
And again, the text would spell it out, though it would just say it in English. You must have at least 3% oxygen to play this card, or maybe it's temperature. Maybe I can only play this card if I have a maximum temperature of negative 16 Celsius. Different conditions, or maybe some of the cards might have that I have to have, for instance, this one here. This one here has a condition that I have to have at least 5 ocean tiles in play before I can play this one. So this is definitely going to be a card that will be played later in the game.
Yeah.
Now I can hold this in my hand as long as I want to, but I can't play it until that condition is met.
Yeah. So basically, whenever you have a card, before you use it, always make sure you check the top of it. That's going to tell you everything essentially you need to know about the basics of the card. It's going to tell you what currency you can use for it. It's going to tell you what conditions it has, and it's going to tell you how much it costs.
Yeah. When you get used to these icons, you just have to glance. You
Yeah.
know. You don't even have to read the text, but when you're starting out, the text spells it out for you, so they're really not complicated at all. Again, the box here, the brown box, means that the effect I get from this green card is, in this case, production changes. So it says minus on my energy, so I have to take my energy production down a number, and plus on my money, on my mega credits. So I get a +3 production on my mega credits.
That's a pretty good jump.
It is. That's great.
Yeah.
And that's because it's in that brown box. Again, it's spelled out in the text. Plus, on this card, I get to place a city. So that's pretty awesome. And then when you play a green card, you are done with that card. You don't have to use it again. However, you want to keep it nearby. And what I like to do is I like to just kind of stack them up. My used cards that I've played, the green ones, I just like to stack them up like this so that I can see the tags, because that's the only thing I might want to refer to later in the game. If I'm, for instance, playing a card that says I must have 2 science tags to play this card, well, I can look right here and I see, hey, I've played 2 science tags, because that's what that white tag is. Or I must have 2 building tags. Well, I've got 2 building tags right there. Okay, so that's very helpful with the green cards. But we're not going to use these cards again until the end of the game. Yes. Then we're going to look through all our cards, and some of them also have victory points, and that is always indicated by a large brown spot with a number in it. Some of them might have 1, might have a 2, might have a 3, might have a negative, and just depending on what it is. So those are victory points in those large brown spots. So those are the green cards. Like I said, you'll play them. You're done with them after that, other than referring to the number of tags that you had. Let's look at some of these blue cards, because they play differently. The blue cards are cards that are ongoing throughout the rest of the game once you play them. So this one, for instance, this is Earth Office. This is a very inexpensive card. It's going to cost me 1 mega credit to play. It's got an Earth tag in the upper corner, so I can't use steel. I can't use titanium to pay for this. But the effect, once I do it, is when I play an Earth tag, I pay 3 mega credits less for it. So any other cards, once I have this in effect, this stays in front of me. Any other cards that I play that has that Earth tag on it, it's going to cost me 3 less to use that. And that's for the rest of the game. That just stays in effect. All right. Some of the cards, again, this one has a building tag, which means I can use steel to pay for it. And it's also got a science tag. This particular one has this red arrow. This is an action. That means for the rest of the game, each generation I can use that action 1 time per generation to get the effect. In this case, the action is that I can spend 1 energy to draw a card. So during the later generations, after I put this into play, and that's 1 action, putting it into play, paying the price, putting it into play, during for another action, I can use that effect. Now, what I like to do is once I use that effect, I just tap it, just turn it sideways so I remember that I've used it. The instructions actually say to place one of your cubes on it so you remember, so whatever works for you is fine. But you only get that once per generation, and then at the end of that generation, that card will refresh, so you can untap it or take your cube off, and the next generation you can use it again. So that's an ongoing effect, again, for these blue cards that you'll get to use. Now this one's a little different. Let's look at this one real quick. Another blue card, so it's going to stay in effect through the rest of the game. This one costs 7 mega credits. However, it's got a space icon. Now, where have we seen that before? We've seen that on our resource card on titanium. So guess what? I can spend titanium to pay for that card. And titanium is worth 3 per cube. So if I have 2 cubes of titanium available, I can spend these, and that's worth 6 mega credits. Because this card has the space icon on it, so I could use 2 of those titanium. That's 6 mega credits. I only owe 1 left. I could take that out of my cash, my mega credit pile, and pay for this card. Any card that has a space icon, you can use titanium to pay for it. And look at the effect here. This is quite different. On this one, this says when you play a space event, you gain 3 mega credits and 3 heat. All right, and we're about to talk about event cards. That's the next card. Those are the red ones. But whenever I play an event card that also has this space icon on it, every time for the rest of the game, I would get $3 and 3 heat cubes. So that's a pretty good card.
Yeah.
But it's only good for event cards, which are the red cards that have the space icon on it. So let's look at event cards. That's the last one. Again, blue cards stay in effect. They stay active through the rest of the game once you play them. This is an event. Oh, excuse me. That's not an event card.
You're a liar.
I was a liar. I am so sorry. I had one. Here it is. All right.
Let's say. There we
I
go.
knew I pulled one out. All right. This is an event card. It's got the red banner. Now, this is a fairly expensive one here. Event cards are one-time events.
Yeah, one-time use only. That's it.
Now, this one does have a space icon. So 2 things. Number 1, I can use titanium to help pay for this. And number 2, that other card, if I had that active, then when I played this, I would get the benefits from that other card. But this particular one costs 27 mega credits. I can pay with titanium at $3 per cube or just regular cash. And also, you see this down arrow? That means once I take the effect, and this is like this with all event cards, once I take the effect, we turn this face down and we just set it aside, because you cannot use the tags from these cards to help other things work or take effect. So, what's the effect for this one? This is a great card. It's expensive though, 27 mega credits. But once I put this into play, I immediately get 2 raises in temperature, so the thermometer will go up twice, and I get 4 pieces of titanium, which is awesome. Plus, and you'll notice here, it says -4 plants. But you might notice that the plants icon is surrounded by a red line. That means I take -4 plants from anywhere, anybody's card. So obviously I don't want to take it from my card. I suppose I could, but I want to take it from somebody else's card. I don't get those plants. It just says that I take them. It says remove up to 4 plants from any player. So I could reach over to Doug Jr.'s card, or Doug the Third, sorry, reach over to his card. I could take 4 of his plants and put it away. Now, what if nobody has 4 plants? Well, this one's okay because it says up to 4 plants. Some cards require you to remove a certain number of resources, and if nobody has that many resources, you just can't play that card yet because you can't reach the requirements of it. But in this case, you can remove up to, which I assume would even mean 0 if nobody had any. But once you're done, you'll turn that face down and you'll place it over here. So during the gameplay, your playing area, and you wouldn't normally put it right under the board, I wouldn't think, but your playing area might look a bit like this as you start to compile a bunch of green cards. You've got several. I like to keep my blue cards out where I can see them because remember, they're ongoing effects. I don't want to forget about them. And then my event cards are going to be face down, so I can just have a stack of those. Maybe during the game I've exhausted this when I've used it, so I've marked it. These don't get exhausted, they just stay in effect. So this is going to be my play area. It's going to look something like this. You will get quite a few cards. Yeah. And so you want to keep them kind of organized. So anything on that comes to mind? I know I've been doing all the talking here.
Oh, no, you're good. No, I think we've just about covered it all. Obviously, if we did miss anything or you weren't clear about something, comment down below. Let us know. We'd be happy to clear that up for you as much as we possibly can. I'm not sure if we actually mentioned it, but
yeah, mentioned first player. Yeah, there's a first player tag or token here. So once you have the first player, every generation that goes clockwise around the table, And I guess I should mention this: every player, every round, you get, for every turn, I guess you would call it, you get to do 1 or 2 actions. So I can do 1 or 2 actions, depending on what I got. And there are reference cards that show you what actions are. Actions are playing a card, purchasing a card.
There's a few actions.
The actions on the card, different things. Buying one of these, marking one of these, those are all actions. So I can do 1 or 2 actions, and then Doug the third would do 1 or 2 actions, and then it would come back to me. I can do 1 or 2 more. He can do 1 or 2 more. You go back and forth or around the table, whatever, until I finally can do no more actions. Either I've run out of money, I don't have anything I can play, or I just don't want to, and I will say I pass. Once I say I pass, I'm out of that round, out of that generation. I'm done. Can't do anything else. Everybody else will continue to take turns until everybody passes, and that's when you go up a generation. I think the only other thing we need to mention is how you start the game. You start, of course, with your corporation, and you start with 10 cards.
Yep.
Everybody gets 10 cards, and the first thing you get to do is look at your cards, decide which. Remember, I told you you get 2 random corporations to look at. Look at your cards, decide which cards you want to keep and which cards you want to put back. For every card that you keep, it costs you $3. That doesn't activate the card, that just gets it in your hand. So for every card that you keep, it's $3. I may look in here and I say, okay, I can't use that one till later, so I'm not going to do that one. I'm not going to do that one. That's a good card. Maybe, no, that would take too long. That one's good. That one's too expensive. I can't do those. Oh, the pet card, I like that. That one's too expensive. That one's expensive, but I'll save it for later. So I'm going to discard these, put a discard pile. I'm going to look at these 4. I'm going to pay $12 because these are $3 each. I'm immediately going to pay my $12, and these are now in my hand. And from my hand, when it's my turn, I can activate them by paying that. From then on, every generation, everyone gets 4 cards to look at, consider which ones they want to keep at $3 a piece, which ones they want to discard, and it goes on from there. So the best thing to do is to watch the playthrough of it. And we're going to do that for you, and we'll break this into chunks because it can be kind of a lengthy game. Although it's not too bad, really. Actually, when everybody knows what they're doing, it clips along pretty good. So it's we'll do our playthrough. You guys can watch that. Hopefully the things I've said I was clear with, and Doug asked a couple of good questions, kind of clarified some things. So I think we're good on that.
And say, but just once again, if you have any questions that we didn't cover fully, or there's maybe you guys play it and you reach a weird roadblock and need some help with that, go ahead and let us know. Maybe we'd be happy to attempt to help you as much as we possibly can.
If I don't know the answer, I will make one up for you. Okay?
Yes.
So, because I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I'll agree with him because
that's right.
Yeah.
So that will make it true. No, but we've been playing this a lot, so we're learning it pretty good. And so somewhere on this video, in the link in the section below, maybe a little tag on the video, we're going to put a link to the gameplay, the playthrough.
Yes.
As well as a link to the unboxing,
yes,
which maybe you've already watched. So hang in there with us, guys. We appreciate your viewership, and we appreciate your comments. Please subscribe, click like on there, share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram with your friends and neighbors. Let them know that we're here and that we'd love for them to watch as well. And we just...
I would say, and then while you're at it, after you subscribe, once you have it, there is a little bell button. Go ahead and hit that. It's just going to keep you notified whenever new videos come out. And a while back, there was a weird little thing going on with YouTube where people would end up being unsubscribed against their will. It's weird.
Yeah.
But once you hit that bell, that will not happen. So that means you are in control.
So get those notifications.
And
we'll try to keep the videos coming as fast as we can. And give you lots of good content. Like I said, we're going to break this up because one of our subscribers mentioned about the length of them. It's kind of hard to watch. And as we looked at the stats the other day, we realized people aren't really watching the whole 2-hour videos. So we're going to cut back into some. So we're trying to make these as enjoyable as possible for you. So check them out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon on our playthrough. So for now, I'm Doug Jr.
I'm Doug the Third.
And you've been watching Doug and Doug Gaming.